You look great.
Thank you.
I know you're very busy. I know you've been traveling quite a lot, and I appreciate you coming here. You don't need to come here. The book's already a #1 bestseller.
I want to come here.
Well, that's very sweet of you to say. Tell people about the jacket. Is that something we want to discuss
This is
here?
special because it's special to be here, and it belonged to my mother, and so I haven't actually worn it, but I thought this was a good time.
That's great.
And I saw a picture of her wearing it at a party with Arthur Schlesinger recently. And since he was the preeminent historian of his day, and I'm talking to you, I thought,
it only makes
what
sense.
could be more appropriate, really?
It's the perfect compliment. Now, I've heard these interviews described as part of an oral history of the entire country. Is that what the project was?
Well, of my father's life and career. And so after his death, my mother and my uncle set about to try to capture memories while they were still fresh. And so the idea is that these kind of interviews that are done right away really bring the person to life. And then combined with the documents and the archive at the Kennedy Library, you can form a composite picture over time. So
who else was interviewed?
Over 1,000 people. It was the biggest one that was
and
ever done.
Have those interviews been published now as well?
A lot of them are open. I guess they're not that interesting because no one seems to care. But she was very clear that she was doing it for history, and so she wanted to be as honest as she could, and I think that took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And then put them away so that she wouldn't have to be here when they came out, that I could be. So,
how old would she be if she were alive now?
Well, she was born in 1929.
I can't help it.
I can't either.
So that makes her my age. If she were alive today, would she want these published now?
No, she wouldn't want them published when she was alive, no matter when. But she wanted them published. She wanted to put them aside for 50 years. Yeah. And I think if she was alive, she'd probably put it out another 50. But the idea was that it would settle. And so I think, and that would allow her to be honest. And I think that that's something that we've gotten used to. People just write these really cautious memoirs. And I think she really deserves a lot of credit for making every effort to be as honest as she possibly could.
I find the whole thing, and forgive me, I find the whole thing, it makes me giddy, honest to God. I love this, I love everything about it. When you're out traveling around and you're signing books and talking to people, who responds to this? Is it people in my generation, people younger, people older, everybody? Who do you find is interested
Well, I think
in
one of the great things about history, and this is really living history, I mean, it's becoming history now, is that it really brings generations together because people have heard their families, their parents, grandparents, talk about this and talk about this kind of inspiration that my father represented. And I think that's something that people are hungry for, and they're interested in hearing really from her. And also she was so private and she didn't give any interviews. And so this is something she took very seriously. And so I think for that reason, people are incredibly respectful and interested in what she has to say.
And did you know pretty much what was going to be in these tapes? Had she alluded to things that had been in the tapes, or was it all new to you when you got to them?
Well, I had heard many of the stories growing up, and I knew that the tapes existed, but I didn't know exactly what was going to be in there.
And what about your kids? What was their reaction when did they get to hear these the transcripts early on?
Yeah, well, they read. I gave them to read because I think they don't really have the patience to do the full listening yet, but maybe they will. They will. But they were incredibly fascinated, and of course, they're becoming more and more interested in their grandparents, and I wish that they got to know them, and so. But this really is a way of getting to know my mother and my father, and so for them, it's
and you,
wonderful.
when you hear your mom talking in earnest, 4 months after your father's death, how does it make you feel? Does it make you sad? Does it make you miss your mom even more? What is your reaction when you hear these?
Well, I thought it would make me sad to listen, so I didn't listen for a while. But then when I actually did, I thought it was wonderful. It was really it's like listening in on this conversation, right. And it just brings her to life in such a wonderful way. So, so I feel really fortunate that it's here and that she sat down and did it.
There was a time, and maybe it still exists today, the idea that anybody with a family should do something like this. And I guess now that the technology is all different, you don't really need to sit down with a tape recorder. But to hear, I wish I had stories from my grandparents, right. Because I know their lives were completely different than my lives. And I know they struggled, and I know my sense is there wasn't a great deal of happiness. So I would like to know how that happened and what made them who they are. Does much of that go on, do you think? Or do you have to be celebrities to do this?
Well, no, I think now there's incredible amounts of this, and people are constantly tracing their family heritage, how they came to America, what their story was. You can upload it on the Ellis Island site and trace, your own family diaspora, and I think it's part of the American story, so every family can do it now.
And when you hear something like this, you realize the true value of it, because
Right.
it's one of those things that, oh, I have an idea, and then you never do it.
You never do it.
Yeah.
Well, nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to listen to themselves, and she would be no exception. Because,
I watched
so I can imagine
the Diane Sawyer show with you, the big 2-hour special there at ABC, and I don't know what's the matter with me. I saw this footage, and I'm sure you've seen all of the footage before that was on that show.
I thought they did a great job with some new
Did a very nice job of it. But I looked at that footage, and all of it made me sad.
Right.
Did it make you sad to see that footage?
Well, I'm sad and happy because I feel, I do feel so lucky that they're my parents, and I am so fortunate in so many of the values that my family passed down to me, and in what they represent and how many people's lives they touch. But of course, it makes me sad because they're my parents.
You talk about values. What do you know tangibly now that you got from them?
Well, I think I got a curiosity, and I think I got a desire to help and try to make things better. And I think that I got my mother certainly led by example, and a strength and a belief in living life on your own terms. And so I think all of those things were really valuable.
How did she pronounce her name?
Well, how do you pronounce her name?
Up until the Diane Sawyer show, I called her Jacqueline Kennedy.
Yeah.
Diane
Well,
Sawyer.
you still are. I heard you.
Yeah. But
you wouldn't believe what a big deal this has become. Really.
the pronunciation of her name?
Yes.
Well,
And
I was
I had
stunned,
no
honestly.
idea that I was starting down this path. I never would have opened my mouth. But I knew that it was one, how you have those things that really bother your parents, and they're not really a big deal to anyone else, but you feel as their child like
Sure.
they should bother you too. Okay, well, that was this, and I should have just left it alone. But I opened my mouth, and nobody can pronounce it. Everyone's confused. People are coming up to me constantly.
What is, as you understand it, your mother liked to be referred to as?
Jacqueline Kennedy.
Jacqueline Kennedy, which is actually more the way it's spelled. It's not really spelled Jacqueline, is it?
No.
Jacqueline.
Good. Yeah, that was good.
I'm
Right, kind of-
Dave. Dave. That's who I am.
That's good. That's good. Glad we've gotten a lot done.
And here's something
Thursday
I have noticed the previous time you were here. You called your mother something else. What did you call her?
I called her Mummy.
Yeah. I love that. Where is that from?
I don't know. I think it's an affected English kind of term.
But it's very sweet.
It's very sweet. It
Yeah,
is.
very
It's
nice.
sweet, and it conjures up sort of ancient stalking figures as well.
All right. I want to ask you something sort of on topic. When I was, first of all, let me just say something, and I'll get it out of the way. And I think I'm speaking for not only my generation, but for a lot of people. But for me, when your father was president, I was an adolescent. I was 12, 13, whatever that age was. And looking back on it, there were three powerful effects on my life. There are three powerful influences. One, of course, was puberty.
Well, I don't think we need to go on.
No, I
really.
don't think
Can
we need to go.
stop
But
now?
Think what you will. But nonetheless, puberty. The other, the Beatles, and thirdly, not in any order, but the life and death of your father. And these were three powerful influences on my life. And I know it's essentially universal, and it's not limited to my generation. But folks applauding puberty. But we were always, when we were kids, we were told John Kennedy, JFK, had a tremendous sense of humor. Tremendous sense of humor. And I think there have been books published on that topic. And do you remember as a youngster that he was funny?
I don't remember that part of him as much. But my mother also had an incredible sense of humor, and I think that that's obviously something that they shared, and people were not aware of at all about her because she kept a very sort of straight demeanor in public, which is where most people saw her.
Now here's the other thing that I guess everybody knows. Mamie Eisenhower was I think the oldest first lady in the history of the presidency. Your mother, was somebody applauding that? Was that honest to God? Yeah, Mamie. Way to compete. Your mother was by far the youngest. When your father took office, your mother was 31 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, which is
I
amazing.
mean, but we have interns older than that. And yet she captured the country, didn't she?
Yeah, and I think it was an incredible achievement of hers because she really was, overwhelmed by the prospect, not really looking forward to it. She had a 3-year-old, that was me, and she had a newborn baby, and so, and I think it was, but in a funny way, I think she really became an independent woman through working on the White House and took that project very seriously and created this museum that's really, world class, and it was sort of through the traditional focus on the home, but it gave her a whole sense of identity, and she became this very, accomplished historian and sensation.
Let me look at some of these photos here. Okay, tell us what this is.
Tell us what that is. I think it's me. I think it's me doing her hair.
Wow.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Which is why she looks so good.
Yeah.
I think this is sort of leapfrog, except for there wasn't a lot of leaping. But we used to run around the corridor on the way to the office. We used to take my father to the office in the morning before school. And so I think John is hiding. As you can see, you can pretty much see him completely. So that must be hiding. So.
And this, I think we've seen a version of this before. This is your father at work.
Oh, I think I'm playing with all the different things on the desk. And there was, I think there was a cannon on the side of the desk. And I remember going to Gettysburg with him. And I decided that I wanted to rename myself Cannon.
I like that. And so like Cannon Kennedy?
Yeah. When it didn't really
I'm all
stick,
for
but
it.
you could.
No, I can make it stick.
Yeah.
This, I didn't know this existed. Of course it exists. It never occurred to me. Maybe it doesn't exist now. This is the White House kindergarten class. And you are fourth from the left. Point to yourself there, Caroline. Yeah, there you are, right there.
I had a lot of those corduroys.
Yeah.
Yeah, little suits.
And who's the serious young student there on the end with his finger up his nose? Who is?
It's a girl.
Oh, it's a girl. I'm sorry. I was distracted by the finger up the nose. Well, there you go. Yeah.
I don't know. She's a really devoted fan of yours. Was.
Sure. Sure. Make me look like a dope. We have the dogs out there diving in the tanks. I know you're a tremendous swimmer, and you're actually a competitive swimmer.
Can I dive in the tank? Is that what we're doing?
I would. But was it your father who actually taught you to swim?
Yeah, he taught me to swim.
How did that begin?
Soon after it began, it ended with a bloody chin, but from the diving board. But it began by going underwater and just by being thrown in with no water wings or anything.
This is
like
your
that.
Dad's naval training?
Here
you go, hop in,
Yeah, you just
good luck.
throw them in, and then and so he was there, and then you swim to me. Swim to me. So I guess that's.
But the first time in, you actually split your chin.
Yeah, I remember doing that in Florida.
Yeah.
Nobody really cared either about that either.
And then you became Cannon.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me a little bit about your brother. I never met your brother. Always wanted to meet your brother and never had that opportunity. Just tell me a little something about him.
You would have really liked him, and I actually thought of him a lot when I was doing this because it was a complicated undertaking, and there was a lot of decisions, and I wanted to do the right thing by my mother, and but he would have loved this project because he loved to cause trouble and get people talking, and had her sense of mischief, and as well as her sort of love of adventure and all of that. So I wish obviously that he was here to be part of this, but he's really was great.
When you say mischief, are you talking about the opinions that your mother shared with about other world leaders, that kind of thing? Is that the source of the mischief here?
That's part of it, part of it. And just, you know, he just was always, you know, everyone around him just was having a good time. He was just one of those people that sort of lit up the room and was always just making you laugh and incredibly sweet. And so he, you know, he would have loved, and he and Mommy were incredibly close. And so, so I thought a lot of him, of both of them actually, when this whole project was going on.
Well, I couldn't be a bigger supporter of this project. I mean, it's a lovely historical document. I mean,
Well, it's really
it's
interesting
important from that standpoint.
if you listen, because you get involved in this whole period of time and all these people, and it's so much more complicated and interesting than you.
It's fascinating because you can just highlight from my memory half a dozen things that stood out when I was a kid that really got my attention, like the missile crisis. That really got my attention. And then here in this collection, you hear the inside of what was going on. You hear your mother's perspective, not only as a mother, but the woman married to the president, and about the family, and on and on. It's a tremendous historical document.
Well, good. I'm glad you like it.
And all of your books have been very successful, haven't they?
This is the most successful, which is a great tribute to
Well, it's a
my
lovely
mother.
thing. It's a lovely thing for you, your family, and for this country. Caroline, nice to see you.
Nice to see
Thank you
you,
very
Dave.
much.